Hey everyone, this is Narendra and you're watching to my channel BioGuru. So today in this video we are going to learn about the photosynthesis. Right? So photosynthesis is the process by which green plants and certain other organisms use light energy to synthesize nutrient from carbon dioxide and water, and in turn as a byproduct they release oxygen. Right? So this is photosynthesis. So in order to understand photosynthesis in a better way, first we need to look at the early discoveries made by some scientists. So here, first one, we are going to study about the Joseph Priestley experiment. So in Joseph Priestley experiment, what did he do? He took one bell jar. This is a bell jar, right? Inside that bell jar, he took burning candle and he sealed the bottom of the bell jar, right? So in order to prevent the entry of air inside the bell jar and as well as the exit of air from inside to outside, so for that reason he is going to seal the bottom of the bell jar. Now this complete setup he's going to keep for certain period of time. So after some time, what did he notice? He saw that the candle which he was placed was burning initially. So after some time it got extinguished. Why it has happened like that? It is because the oxygen which was present inside the bell jar was completely utilized by the burning of the candle. So after utilization of whatever the availability of the oxygen was there by the burning, now it is not present. Now oxygen is not present inside the jar. Anyhow, he has sealed the bottom of the jar. So hence air could not enter into the jar to sustain the burning of candle. So due to the burning of candle, because here complete oxygen is utilized and there is no oxygen left inside to sustain the burning of candle. So because of that, candle got extinguished. So here air followed by burning of the candle, he concluded. So in his next step of experiment, instead of burning candle, he took live mouse and once again he is going to seal the jar. So this experiment setup once again he is going to keep for a certain period of time. So after some time he noticed that the mouse which he kept was live. After some time the mouse died. Why it has happened so? It is because due to the respiration, here there is no burning of certain candle and all. So here the live organism was there. So organism, we know that they are going to respire. They are going to take oxygen from the surrounding atmosphere and they are going to release the carbon dioxide. So the oxygen which was present in the bell jar was utilized by the mouse. So after utilization of all the oxygen molecule which was present in the jar, now there is no oxygen left, free oxygen left, and there is complete seal from the bottom. So because of the suffocation, the mouse is going to die, right? So here the air followed by the respiration. So there are two processes by which the air is going to fall. That means complete utilization of the oxygen. So here one is the burning of candle as well as by the respiration of living organisms. So in his next experiment, what he is going to do? He took bell jar as usual. Inside that he took burning candle as he has taken in the first step of his experiment. He took burning candle as well as he took live mouse. Along with that he placed one potted plant. Say for example here mint plant is there. So after keeping this experimental setup, and once again we should not forget that he has sealed the bottom of the bell jar so that to prevent the entry of air from outside to inside or exit of air from inside to outside. So there is a seal. Next, what is going to happen after some time? As usual, he is going to keep for a certain period of time. So after some time he noticed that, say for example, if he had placed this earlier two experimental setup for one day each, then here this experiment setup is also kept for one day. So after keeping for one day, so he noticed that Earlier, the mouse which died in absence of plant, here in presence of plant, the mouse is still alive and it is surviving. The candle which was extinguished in his first setup, now it is continues to burn. Why it has happened so? Here the mouse continues to live and candle continues to burn. How it has happened? It is because of the plant. So he made certain conclusions. So what are those conclusions? Let us see. So in his first conclusion, plants restore oxygen in the air. Right? We know that the oxygen is consumed by the burning of candle as well as the respiration of living organisms. So that oxygen which was completely utilized was restored by the plants. The plants restore oxygen in the air which was fouled because of the burning and respiration of living organisms. Right? So in his another experiment, he also concluded that air is necessary for the growth of plants. So this was a complete experiment done by the Joseph Priestley in order to understand that plant is very much necessary in order to restore the oxygen. So moving to the next experiment. So coming to the next experiment, which was performed by the Jan Ingenhousz. Basically, he performed the same experiment with minor changes. Same experiment as that of the experiment which was performed by earlier the Joseph Priestley. So here what he is going to do, he took the same, basically the same experimental setup like the bell jar, and he took live moss, and he took burning candle, and he also took mint plant. So this whole experimental setup, first he is going to place in absence of light, that is in dark. So after some time, what did he see? Even after placing the plant but in dark, it could not, or it failed to restore the oxygen which was fouled by the burning of candle or the respiration of living organism. So eventually, even in the presence of plant, mouse died and burning candle got extinguished. So in his next step, he took the same experimental setup like bell jar he took, mint plant he took, mouse he took, and burning candle. But now he is going to place this entire experimental setup in the presence of light, right? So earlier he placed in absence of light, that is in dark. Now in the presence of light. So what could be the result? Can you guess? Yes, of course. Here after some time he noticed that candle continues to burn. Candle continues to burn, but in his first step he saw that it got extinguished. Why? Because this experiment setup was in absence of light. Now here it is continues to burn, and as well as the mouse which he kept, it also survived. Mouse continues to live. Because here what conclusion can be made by the Jan Ingenhousz? So these are the conclusion. The sunlight is essential for plant process that purify the air. So earlier Joseph Priestley he just concluded that plant restore the oxygen in the air, right? But he could not tell whether in presence or absence of light. So the experiment which was performed by the Jan Ingenhousz, we come to know that based on his conclusion, based on his experiment, sunlight is essential for the plants process that purify the air. So simply they are not going to purify the air, they need a light, right? They need light for the release of oxygen. In his another experiment, he also discovered that the green parts of the plants release oxygen. Basically, where you will find the parts where you find the green color or the green parts of the plants, from there the oxygen is liberated, right? So that was discovered by Jan Ingenhousz. So he concluded that. So this was basically the Jan Ingenhousz experiment, right? So moving to the next experiment, that is performed by the Julius von Sachs. Here, based on his experiment, he discovered that the green substance in the plants that is called as a chlorophyll, right? And this is a green pigment, and this green pigment that is chlorophyll is located in the special bodies called chloroplast, right? Chloroplast. These chloroplasts are nothing but these are the cell organelle which are found in plants and in some bacteria as well as the algae, and this chloroplast is absent in animals, right? So that we already studied in case of cell chapter. So what did he discover? He discovered that the green substance in the plants, that is chlorophyll, which is a pigment which traps the light energy, right? Which traps or which absorbs the light energy in order to facilitate the production of food, that is photosynthesis, right? And where this chlorophyll is located? It is located in the special body that is called as chloroplast, right? Now, he also discovered that the green parts of the plants are where the glucose is made, which is stored as a starch, right? So the plants, they basically produce sugar in the form of glucose, right, which is a monomer, and later on they are going to store in a polymeric form, right? So that polymer which is stored in the plants is the starch is a polymer of glucose, and these glucose are produced in the green parts of the plants, which was concluded by the Julius von Sachs, right? So moving to the next experiment. Okay, now let us see the experiment which was performed by the another scientist, that is T.W. Engelmann. So what did he do? He discovered the first action spectrum of photosynthesis. How? By using green alga that is called as cladophora. What did he discover? He discovered action spectrum of photosynthesis. Using what? Using green alga that is cladophora. So, the action spectrum which he discovered roughly resembles the absorption spectra of chlorophyll A and chlorophyll B. We know that there are different types of chlorophyll molecules and they absorb light in a different wavelength, right? We know that light, in visible light, there are different wavelength are there, right? So that we are going to see. Right, so here basically he took prism through which he passes the light, and when we pass the light through the prism, it is going to split the light into different wavelength. That means in different colors. We see basically during the rainfall, right? We see the rainbow, right, in which we see the different wavelength of light, different colors. Like that, if we pass the light through the prism, we are going to see the different wavelength which is spitted out. So basically we represent like this: VBR. Here the V stand for violet, I stand for indigo, blue stand for B stand for blue, G stand for green, Y stand for yellow, O stand for orange, R stand for red. So he radiated individually, that means different wavelength he irradiated to the green alga, that is cladophora. So green alga cladophora received the different wavelength and reacted differently. Reacted means what? It is going to react to the different wavelength. How? By releasing the oxygen. Why it is releasing the oxygen? We know that this green alga receives the light in order to synthesize its food, and as a byproduct they are going to release the oxygen. So in order to see in which wavelength of light there is a high rate of photosynthesis, he used some aerotactic bacteria. So what happens actually by using the aerotactic bacteria? They are going to accumulate where there is oxygen, where actually oxygen is liberated. There the aerotactic bacteria are going to accumulate in a large number. So the large number of aerotactic bacteria we can see in the range between the 400 to 500 nanometer, that is between the wavelength of 400 to 500, that is between violet and green. there is a high rate of photosynthesis. So plants are going to use, or green plants are going to use this particular wavelength to produce the food, right? So because of that only there is a large amount of oxygen liberated in this particular region. So because of that the aerotactic bacteria are accumulated in this particular region, as well as we can also see the accumulation of aerotactic bacteria between the range of 600 nanometer to 700 nanometer. It is because plant also not only uses the wavelength between 400 to 500 nanometer, but also between 600 to 700 nanometer, right? Now we are going to compare this action spectrum with the absorption spectrum of chlorophyll A and B. So here you can see this is a graph obtained by plotting the light absorbed against the wavelength of light. So here it is a 400 wavelength, 500, 600 and so on. So here the maximum amount of light absorbed by the chlorophyll A and B lies in the wavelength, the range between 400 to 500 nanometers. So in this range only we have seen the maximum action, that is the photosynthesis in cladophora, right? As well as we can also see the peak over here between the range of 600 to 700 nanometer. So these two peaks of chlorophyll A and chlorophyll B is going to resemble with the action spectrum. Action means here in this particular wavelength the cladophora uses this wavelength for synthesis of food, that is photosynthesis. So because of that only it releases the oxygen. So because of oxygen this aerostactic bacteria accumulated in this particular region. So this is going to form a kind of graph like structure, so that roughly resembles with that of absorption spectrum of chlorophyll A and chlorophyll B. Okay, moving to the next experiment performed by the Cornelius Van Til. So what did he demonstrate? He demonstrated that the photosynthesis is a light dependent reaction in which the hydrogen from an oxidizable compound reduces carbon dioxide to carbohydrate. So here it is a reaction, general reaction. Here it is not a particular reaction like the carbon dioxide and water. So here carbon dioxide is reduced by the hydrogen from the oxidizable compound. Oxidizable compound, here it is a H2A. Here, this is not a particular compound, it is just a general formula for any oxidizable compound. It could be water, that is H2O, or it could be hydrogen sulfide, that is H2S. So here we have not mentioned particularly, but it is a general oxidizable compound. So here basically the hydrogen which is present here is going to reduce the carbon dioxide in the presence of light, so converting it into, that is carbon dioxide, into CH2O, that is carbohydrate, and it is sugar. So here the CH2O is representing the carbohydrate, right? And as a byproduct water and oxidized product is also released. So if you look at the normal reaction where we know that plant uses carbon dioxide and water, so here the water is oxidizable compound, so hydrogen from the water is used to reduce the carbon dioxide into carbohydrate, right? And as a byproduct we know that water as well as oxygen is produced. We know that green plants they take carbon dioxide and they release oxygen, right? Now the oxygen which is liberated, whether it is coming from water or it is coming from carbohydrate, still it is a mystery. So we want to find out that one, right? So what Cornelius Van Til did when he worked on sulfur bacteria are the bacteria which are going to use the hydrogen sulfide as an oxidizable compound, not the water, right? So in order to find out whether the oxygen which is liberated is coming from carbon dioxide or water, because oxygen is present in both, that is carbon dioxide as well as the water, so we want to find out from where it is actually coming. So he worked on sulfur bacteria. He found that the sulfur is an oxidation product. Since H2S is the hydrogen donor, hence he concluded that the oxygen comes from water and not from the CO2, because earlier people they used to think that oxygen is a gas, carbon dioxide is also gas. Obviously oxygen is coming from the carbon dioxide and not coming from the liquid, that is water. But after performing this experiment on sulfur bacteria, because sulfur bacteria uses hydrogen sulfide and not the water, so after this reaction he found out that the oxidation product is the sulfur, and sulfur obviously it is present. So here you can see. Okay, now if you look at the reaction which is taking place in sulfur bacteria, they are going to use the hydrogen sulfide as an oxidizable compound. So the hydrogen from the hydrogen sulfide is going to reduce the carbon dioxide to form the carbohydrate, then as a byproduct water, as well as the oxidation product sulfur. So sulfur is coming from the oxidizable compound, that is hydrogen sulfide, but it is not coming from the carbohydrate because carbon dioxide does not contain sulfur. Sulfur here it is only present in hydrogen sulfide and it is released as a byproduct. So oxygen which was released by the normal process of photosynthesis in plants is coming from the water and not from the carbon dioxide. By this particular experiment we can make the conclusion. From where the oxygen is liberated? It is liberated from the water, because in this experiment in sulfur bacteria they uses hydrogen sulfide in place of water. So hydrogen sulfide act as an oxidizable compound, so hydrogen from this is going to react, is going to reduce the carbon dioxide to produce a carbohydrate, and sulfur is released as an oxidation product. So this concludes that the oxygen is coming from water there in previous reaction, here water, not from the carbon dioxide, right? So the final equation for the photosynthesis is as follows. So the plant uses 6 molecules of carbon dioxide and 12 molecules of water in presence of light, and chlorophyll is formed, or it is going to produce 1 molecule of glucose. This is glucose, that is C6H12O6, plus as a byproduct we know that 6 molecules of water and 6 molecules of oxygen is liberated. So this is what all about the early discoveries. Okay, now let us have a look at the site of photosynthesis. The site of photosynthesis, we know that it is the chloroplast, right? Now where do we find the chloroplast? We find chloroplast in the mesophyll cells. Mesophyll cells in the green leaves have large number of chloroplasts. Now where these mesophyll cells are present? Obviously in the green leaves. So if we take the section of a leaf, cross section, right, you will get 2 layers. One is upper layer and another one is a lower layer. So upper one, it is called as upper epidermis, right, and lower one it is called as lower epidermis. So between these two, right, so you will find some cells having specialized organelle, that is chloroplast, right? So these cells which are present between the upper and lower epidermis, they are called as the mesophyll cells, right? So mesophyll contains a specialized organelle that is called as a chloroplast. So chloroplast structure we have already studied in cell chapter, but still we are going to see its brief structured details. We know that chloroplast, it is consisting of two membrane. Actually it is a 2 membrane bond structure, obviously outer membrane and inner membrane. Inside that it is going to enclose a semi fluid material, that is matrix. It is called as a stroma, right? So inside the stroma you will see many disc shaped structures. So individual disc shaped structure, it is called as a thylakoid. So these thylakoids, they are arranged one above the other. So these they look like piles of coins. So here you can see the thylakoids, they are arranged one above the other like a piles of coins. So this whole structure is going to become, or it is called as the granum. So all the granum they are called as grana. Granum is a singular term and grana is a plural term, right? So here you can see there is a connection between the two granum, right? So this connection is called as stroma lamella. So this grana and stroma lamella makes one system. That system will study, right? So basically we are going to consider for the photosynthesis we require only these two structures, that is stroma lamella as well as the granum So the main parts, the chloroplast consisting of first grana and stroma lamella as well as the stroma. Stroma, it is the semi-fluid matrix. Apart from that, you can see the ribosomes, you can see the starch granules, right? Okay. So let us have a look at the structures in detail. Grana and stroma lamella, because they are membrane bond structures present inside the chloroplast, so they are going to form the membranous system of chloroplast, right? It is this region where actually it traps the light. So the grana and stroma lamella traps the light and synthesizes the ATP and NADPH, right? And because of this, it is called as a site of light dependent, right? It is called a site of light dependent reaction of photosynthesis, right? Why? It is this region where the light is trapped and ATP and NADP, certain molecules, are produced, and we'll study in detail how and actually how they are produced, right? Till then, you just remember this grana and stroma lamella forms the membranous system of chloroplast and trap the light and synthesizes ATP and NADPH. So this becomes the site of light dependent reaction of photosynthesis. And moving to the next part, that is the stroma, right? The stroma is a region where the carbon dioxide is fixed or incorporated into the plant by enzymatic reaction leading to the synthesis of sugar. So the sugar actually produced here in the stroma, right? And it does not require, and the reaction through which the carbohydrate is or the sugar is produced does not require the light, so hence it becomes the site of light independent reaction of photosynthesis, independent. So in order to produce or in order to fix the carbon dioxide, it does not require the light, but later on we'll come to know that it requires the product of light dependent reaction, that is it requires ATP and NADPH. So basically these two structures are very important in order to understand the photosynthesis. So here we'll stop. Hope you found this video useful. If so, hit like button, share this video with your friends, classmates, and if you are a teacher, share with your colleagues. If you are not subscribed to my channel, please consider subscribing. I will see you in my next video. Till then, take care.